A congregational treasurer. Is Darren here? Maybe he's listening. A congregational treasurer once asked God how long 1,000,000 years was to him. God replied, 1,000,000 years to me is just like a single second in your time. Then the treasurer asked God what $1,000,000 was to him. God replied, $1,000,000 to me is just like a single penny to you. Congregational finances being what they were, the treasurer got her courage up and asked, God, could I have one of your pennies? God smiled and replied, certainly, just a second. I think it's more often the case in our spiritual journeys that we do not simply get what we ask for or want. The faith life just doesn't work like that. Even though in popular religion we often joke about it, when people banter with me about having a special connection to God when we want better weather, for example, I like to remind them that I'm in sales, not management. Indeed, in the popular mindset, we live with this idea that somehow we ought to manage what really is the purview, the domain of God. And in tough times, we really struggle with that. Why doesn't God do what we think is the solution to our problem? Cure our illness, give us money to make ends meet, solve our problems. Of course, we hear stories that are exceptions to this, but even then, the answers to the prayer request don't come in precisely the way we expected they would. It reminds me of a Valentine's Day card that I've seen. On the outside of the card is the catchy phrase, "You're the answer to all my prayers." On the inside of the card are the words, "You're not what I prayed for, but you're the answer to all of my prayers. You're what I got." It is true, everything in life is what we got, whether we like it, want it, or not. We run into spiritual and emotional trouble whenever we feel like we must control the outcome of all that we do and are. How much do we miss what's there because we are expecting to see what's not there? What we don't have, what we've lost, what isn't any longer. At the generous giving practicum I attended this past week in Aurelia with other clergy from the Eastern Synod, several speakers spoke to us about the nature of giving. The General Secretary of the Anglican Church of Canada, the Venerable Dr. Michael Thompson, told of the time when he and his wife hiked a challenging trail in Lake Superior National Park last summer. Coming over a rise, they descended into a valley devastated by a forest fire a couple years back. The contrast from the lush pine and spruce forest they had just left was stark. Now they walked gingerly among the burnt-out stumps in a moonscape land. The bird song had disappeared into an eerie silence. The rustle of underbrush caused by scampering chipmunks yielded to wind gusts sweeping across the vast, exposed earth. Where were the tall trees? Would they ever return? How long would it take? Michael and his wife began to despair as they hurried to leave the depressing scene and return into the cover of mature forest once again. Then by their feet, a blueberry caught their eye. As they lifted their vision, they saw not just one blueberry, but a bush. And not just one blueberry bush, but actually the whole place was teeming with blueberry bushes surrounding the base of the tree stumps and fallen timber. They stopped to consider the gift of abundance that lay at their feet in the blueberries, the sweet taste, the healthy nutrition, the food for many creatures of land and air, and then the possibilities of scrumptious blueberry pies and jams. All of a sudden their mood shifted, and they began to see and talk not about what was missing anymore, but the new thing that was appearing out of the ruins of fire and loss. Indeed, especially on Thanksgiving weekend, it can be hard to feel thankful, especially when we focus either in the direction of deficit and scarcity, or, on the other hand, in the delusion that we are the reason for all that we have. When we either that we have trouble understanding when we lean either way what it means then to live by Paul's words in his letter to the Philippians. Rejoice always. Again I say, rejoice. How can we rejoice always when we focus on scarcity on the one hand, or pretend it's all up to us on the other? Either way, we remain depressed or stressed to the hilt, and cannot, in the words of the Deuteronomist, celebrate with all the bounty that the Lord your God has given to you and to your house. Now, in that text from Deuteronomy 26, 1-11, that Marla read, the Lord instructs the people, when they enter the promised land, to bring their basket of offerings to the priest at the altar. The giving doesn't stop there, however. They need to be reminded again and again that it was God who listened to their prayer and brought them out of slavery in Egypt to the freedom in the promised land. And in the Gospel for Thanksgiving Day, John 6, we read Jesus' words reminding his listeners again that it is his Father in heaven who is the source of the bread we need. Perhaps the secret to thanksgiving is in seeing what is actually there, what God has actually already given to us, and not fixate on what is missing all the time. Perhaps thanksgiving is not only about giving, but also about receiving. What if the secret to thanksgiving is noticing the blueberries where a forest should have, could have, would have been if not for the fire? It is our nature as human beings to give and to receive with joy. As Christians, we have a choice. It is really a matter of belief and intention. What do you really believe? We can submit to our ego cravings to keep what we got for ourselves, pretending we are the source, we deserve it. We are the source of all the good in our lives. Or we can give what we got for the benefit of the world which God so loved. And then rejoice. Thanksgiving is not a feeling. It is an action. It is intention and practice and discipline. So, why do people give today? I attended this seminar this past week, so I'm going to give you the statistics, okay? Here's statistics. Now, there are some cultural changes we need to recognize. If you are of a certain age, born before the latter part of the last century, you likely give because of duty, responsibility, and commitment. Very good. Now, that's not the case in recent decades, if you haven't already noticed, among younger people. Only 29% of Canadian donors in 2013 reported donating to fulfill religious obligations. Only 29%. The reality today is that younger generations will give. They will give of their time, talent, treasures when they feel compassion in the community and they feel hope towards the reason for their giving. They need to be inspired, not guilted. Inspired. In other words, people today give when they believe in the mission of whatever group or activity, including the church's work and programs, if they are inspired and compelled by a belief that their engagement with the church will make a positive difference in the world. Statistics Canada reports that the vast majority, hear this, 91% of Canadian donors today said that the reason they donate is that they feel compassion towards people in need. Other reasons for donating, often cited, include 88%, the idea of helping cause, a helping cause in which they personally believe, and 82% want to make a contribution to their community. There is much to be thankful. Giving levels in Canada between 1984 and 2010 have steadily grown, contrary to what you might think. Charitable giving peaked in 2010, the last year this was tracked, with a gross amount of $15 billion in Canada in 2010. $15 billion, and that's grown since 1984. In other words, over the last couple of decades, people are giving more, not less. And what's good news for us in the church is that 60% of this $15 billion was faith-based. 60%. Here at Faith Lutheran Church, this community of faith has given generously to the refugee sponsorship, to Lutherland Camp and Conference Center, to our youth initiatives. This community of faith has given of its time, talents, and treasures for the last quarter century to the Carlington Community Chaplaincy. This community of faith has always been generous, giving at least 10% to the work of the wider church in benevolence offerings. And I've just scratched the surface. You people here are very generous in your giving. And this culture of generosity, of compassion and commitment is the heart of what we are all about as Christians, as followers of the one, Jesus Christ, who gave his all, his life for us. And so on this Thanksgiving Sunday in Canada, it is my pleasure and honor on behalf of all the people in Ottawa, in Canada, and in the world who have benefited in small and big ways over the years from your generous giving. I want to say a heartfelt thank you. Let's pray together. Now, that prayer of thanksgiving written by Walter Rauschenbusch. Let's pray together. For the wide sky and the blessed sun, for the salt sea and the running water, for the everlasting hills and never-resting winds, for trees and the common grass underfoot, we thank you for our senses, by which we hear the songs of birds, and see the splendor of the summer fields, and taste of the autumn fruits, and rejoice in the feel of the snow, and smell the breath of the spring. Grant us a heart wide open to all this beauty, and save our souls from being so blind that we pass unseeing when even the common thorn bush is aflame with your glory. O God, our Creator, forever and ever. Amen.